So what factors should you consider when choosing universities? Okay. Now, as the common advice goes, and I think it is a sensible piece of advice, you should apply to a range of universities. For most of you, that means applying to some ambitious universities. What ambitious means is if you get into that university, then you're lucky, okay? But you kind of stand a chance. And you should apply to a range of medium universities or on par universities, which are kind of suitable and just matched for your profile. And a few safe universities. By safe, what we mean is if you didn't get into that university, then it's something really weird that's happening, okay? So this is what you need to take care of. But while you do choose a range of universities, you should also look at these aspects when you choose those universities, okay? So first is the area of interest. It's not, while the top and famous universities are good in, all their areas, all the majors that they offer, there are a lot of not so well-known universities, but who are very good in certain fields, okay? So it makes sense to go after universities that are well-known in your area of interest, okay? Makes sense? So, for example, let's see, I can give you Rensselaer Polytechnic is a good university, especially if you want if you want to do something in the engineering field, something very technical with a lot of practical application. So, it might not be among your top 10 that come to mind, but it's a good school. So you have to narrow by your field of interest, okay? Of course, brand matters, reputation matters, and definitely your budget matters. So you have to look at your budget, and while we will look at sources of funding, if you do have to take an education loan, which is a great idea, you should still look at your budget and your level of comfort, okay? Because some loans might require collaterals, and you have to see what you have and all of that. Fourth is funding opportunity. What are the kinds of financial aid that or other part-time work on campus that you can find in those universities? Location is extremely important. Universities that are located in big cities or near major industrial hubs give you a lot of exposure to those industries. Okay, let me give you some examples. The Bay Area, obviously, I mean, San Jose State may not be a world-famous university, but it's in the heart of the Silicon Valley, and it can, give you the opportunity of interviewing with many high-tech companies throughout the year, right? Or a university in New York, if you're into the Wall Street of finance, for example, New York is a good place to start, as is Chicago. So you have to consider these things. The New Jersey hub and Southern California is, has got a lot of biotech companies in there. So if you're into the biomed or the bioengineering, biotechnology field, then those are good locations to consider. So you have to look at all these aspects. And if you're thinking, hey, how on earth do I know all of these things? Then you should consider enrolling for an admissions counseling program, such as the one that we offer at Galvanize Test Prep, because then you will have an expert who is aware and constantly in touch with all of the stuff that's happening on the ground in the US, and can use that knowledge to help you make the best decisions for you, okay? Of course, for some of you, weather might be a concern, although I think it should be the least priority, but hey, well, comfort does matter, and if you're someone who's particularly susceptible to cold, then you should not be applying to the University of Minnesota Twin Cities, even though it's a famous university. And I, for example, decided not to apply there. So these are, some of the factors that you need to consider. Okay. So what is the timeline like? Most people apply in fall for good reason, because scholarships are plenty in fall. Okay, relatively compared to spring. So you kind of taking your GRE around this time, but I know many people who take their GRE in October, in November, and sometimes even in December as well, and that's perfectly fine. Okay, But ideally, you take it earlier so you have time to focus on your TOEFL and especially focus on your statement of purpose, your letters of recommendation, gathering transcripts, rank statements, and other things from the university that you're currently studying at. And most universities have their deadlines from December through Feb. This is when you have to submit your applications to universities. And the fun stuff happens from Feb through April. You receive your admissions and in some cases the rejections. And once you have received your admissions, you can take a decision and you can communicate your acceptance to the university. You can process your I-20. You can start applying for funding, and then a whole lot of things happen. Okay. Now, for some of you who are going the education loan approach, some loan companies, I'm sure Credila will give you a lot of information about that. They can sort of give you a a sanction. Okay, they can give you a pre-loan sanction even at the time of application. Sometimes, depending on your GRE scores, your profile, the collateral, and all of that, and definitely after you get your I-20, you can use your loan sanction to get your visa. Okay, so because you have to demonstrate proof of funds. Why is that important? Why must you prove that you have the means to pay for your studies? It's because you're going there to study. You're not going there to work, flipping burgers part-time and making the money for you to study and then end up not studying. Okay, so the universities there want to make sure that you have the money, whether it's a loan or whether through scholarship or whether through your personal funds in order to pay your tuition and your living expenses, so you can actually focus on the very purpose that you went to the US in the first place, which is to study. Okay. For springtime universities, the application deadline is March through April of the previous year, whereas for other universities, the application deadline for spring can be July through August. Okay, but chances of funding are way better in fall. So I strongly urge you to apply for fall unless you have specific reasons for why you would prefer spring. Okay, so next, let's look at your statement of purpose. Okay. So this is endearingly called the SOP, and this is a letter, not exactly a letter, it's an essay, but it's kind of like a letter that you write about yourself to the university. It is an essay. It talks about, what your interests are, why you got interested in that specific field, what is, why that particular university. What are your goals once you complete your degree? And universities will ask you for a statement. They'll kind of give you a very clear problem statement. Okay, so this is your chance to write about yourself and distinguish yourself from other applicants, and make sure that you do talk about why that particular course, what got you interested, how your profile, your background, your experience, your projects or interests fit into that course. And your career goals, what you plan to do with that degree, why that university. So you want to make sure that you include all of these aspects. And if you do enroll for our admissions counseling program at Galvanize, we will definitely help you with your statement of purpose and your recommendation letters. So we try to, we will understand you as a person. We ask you detailed questions. We do not believe in a cookie cutter approach, and please do never copy a statement of purpose. Do not resort to cut and paste from your friends' essays, your seniors' essays, and all of that, because universities have methods to check for plagiarism. Okay, plagiarism refers to the copying of somebody else's work without getting permission and without stating it up front. And in this case, it has to be original work. So please make sure it is your original work. But what we at Galvanize do is we help. We take your originality and we look at your profile and we highlight the best of of your profile. Our goal is to project what is true about you, and in the manner which highlights and brings out your best. Okay. So, so please make sure your stuff is original, and definitely when you enroll for our admissions counseling, we can help you with all of these things. Okay. And try not to exceed 1 to 1.5 pages. That should be the size of your statement of purpose, because a lot of people are going to be applying, and admissions officers do not have the time to read novels about you. So you have to try, and our goal is to get the best information about you in the shortest space possible. And then the letters of recommendation, they play a key part. So letters of recommendation, it's a signed statement. It's a sort of a shorter essay, maybe 1 page typically, 3/4 of a page, from a person who has known you professionally or academically. Okay, so this could be your project guide, if you're an undergrad student. It could be your HOD or head of the department. It could be your manager at work if you're a working professional. It could be your supervisor when you at the company where you did your summer internships. So this is somebody who has known you in a professional or an academic capacity and has had the opportunity to judge your work. Okay. And most universities will require 3 letters of recommendation from 3 different people, and these must come on their letterheads. What will happen is first you have to get the permission from the person who, from the 3 different people, in some cases 2 different people, who will be writing your letters of recommendation, and you will give their official email. It can't be a Gmail address or a Hotmail address, okay? Because anybody can create one, and your friends can write it for you, and that's not how it works. So it must be an academic address or a corporate address, and you will give that address to the university to which you're applying. So universities have websites to manage the application process, and once you type in that person's professional email address, and once you give that to the university, they will receive an automated email from the university with a link, and when they click on that link, they will be directed to the admissions website of that university, and on that link they will be asked a lot of questions about you. They'll be asked questions like, how do you rate this particular applicant in terms of the other people you have taught over the in your career? Is this person in the top 5 percentile, top 10 percentile, top 20 percentile, blah blah blah? How do you rate their academic interest? How do you rate their ability to complete projects that they've started? And there'll be a lot of questions. And then they also have the option to upload a letter of recommendation. Okay, and that letter of recommendation that they're going to upload is basically a PDF of the letter that they write for you, and it must be in the university or in the company's letterhead. Okay, so this is how this is what happens behind the scenes, and the letter just cannot be a showering praise about you. Oh my God, this is the best, blah 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 blah, best person I've ever, unless you really are such a distinguished student. Okay, it has to be something that realistically reflects your capabilities and your strengths, and maybe a couple of weaknesses, and with examples. Okay, so 3 letters of recommendation, or sometimes 2, and this is how the letter of recommendation process works. Okay, so again, like I said, if you enroll for our admissions counseling program, we will help you with your letters of recommendation as well, and definitely you will have to coordinate with the professors or your manager, and we will you can come up with the first draft, and we'll help you refine the draft for you. Okay, so very important parts of your application, your SOP and your LORs, very, very important. They give the non-quantitative aspects about you. So your test scores, your transcripts, your GPA, these are all the quantitative aspects. Okay, they're all numbers and alphabets. But these are personal statements about you, and good letters of recommendation, a good statement of purpose can go a long way in securing the admission for you at the right college. Okay, so these are some of the areas of specialization that you can do in your master's. Please keep in mind that master's degree is usually to specialize in a particular area. So while your a degree might be offered by a department like, say, I have an MS in blah, 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 I have an MS in electrical engineering, I have an MS in computer science, but you will typically specialize in a sub-area within that. Maybe your computer science MS, your specialization can be databases, it can be AI, it can be, compiler design, it can be whatever, right? Networking. So typically, you pick an area and you do further research within that area. Although there are some people who can do a broader specialization, which is aimed at finding jobs. So you can do that. But typically, master's degrees expect you to know certain areas within your field in depth. Okay. So now we come to the big and important question of financial aid. So you have to appreciate US universities, okay, for being willing to consider funding students who are not American citizens to do their masters at some of the best universities in their country. Okay, how many countries do that? Can you imagine India, calling in lakhs of students, literally lakhs, because more than a lakh of students write the GRE every year from India alone. And, saying, hey, foreign students, do really well and we will pay for your education, right? I mean, that's not done in most countries. And that is one more reason why higher studies in the US is special, because they are ready to fund you. Of course, you will have to, there might be something in return, and we'll talk about that. So my hope is that all of you who are watching this webinar today, and those of you who couldn't get to watch because you maxed out the number of participants, and you will in turn watch the recording later. My hope and wishes to all of you is that you get the best admission possible, and hopefully with financial aid. But if not, that is perfectly fine. Okay, I